Welcome back, Frostburg State fans, to our final season recap here at Frostburg State University, and we are wrapping up our spring season. A lot of success for a lot of those teams. I'm joined once again for the final time this year by Colin Kirkwood, who is our broadcaster for many of these sports. Colin, overall, just a really successful spring for a lot of these sports.
Boy, was it busy, and boy, was it a lot of fun. I mean, we had so much success to sit here and enjoy throughout the entire spring season. It was really a pleasure.
And we start off with a team that has had newfound success in acrobatics and tumbling, which feels like the season happened about a year ago with how it went. But reaching their first ever MEC championship final against Fairmont State, one of the founding teams of the sport in college, came just a little bit shy of winning that championship. But you look at the amount of talent and the youth there of a 2-year-old program making a conference championship. It's astounding, really.
Yeah, I mean, they've really got great pieces, and they're put together very well in terms of the way they've assembled, in terms of who comes in for their skill events and whatnot as well. And they're always composed when it comes to the team event as well. A coach of the year as well. I mean, that really helps things out a lot when you have somebody with a lot of leadership like that to be able to put things together. Very lucky.
You talk about another team that had some newfound success in men's and women's tennis, who both teams, I believe, reached their most wins since 2016 and starting to kind of get back in and find their feet in the conference. And Origin Greer on the men's side, a second-team all-conference performer, paired really well with Desire Johnson in doubles as well. Lorena Pintar on the women's side, not getting an all-conference honor, but certainly the opposing coaches in the conference recognize her talent, and two teams that are really building towards the future.
Yeah, and they've got great leadership in Jeff over there, and he's been doing a really good job with the program. I'm sure he'll be able to put things together and keep them on the right track for more success next time around next year.
Yeah, and they're looking certainly to add some more international talent and some local kids as well. So we're really excited to see what they're going to bring. And speaking of some local talent in track and field, and Tom McCoy and Michaela Westry, two performers on the men's and women's side respectively, setting a pair of long-standing records here at Frostburg. Tom breaking the pole vault record that stood since the 1980s, and Michaela breaking the hammer throw, which she had been trying to get all season. Both of those teams finishing about middle of the pack in the conference was where kind of they've expected over the last few years, but with such talent at the top end of the conference, you see some of these guys and girls, and they're coming along well and kind of, again, finding their feet.
Yeah, and it's exciting times for them as well with the renovations going on over the track and field right now. I mean, they're very lucky they're going to have a state-of-the-art facility to work with here once they get back after the break and whatnot. So in addition to that and the success that they've already had, I mean, things are looking very much up for them.
Yeah, they're certainly going to look to host the Bob Lewis Classic for the first time since 2019. Not able to host that, first because of COVID, and then this year some unforeseen circumstances, but would love to have a meet be hosted here at Frostburg and kind of stamp our name on the conference itself. We get into the more team-oriented sports, and one of the standout stories was baseball, turning around from a 14-15 win team last year to now winning 33 games this year. I mean, Anthony Williams didn't win Coach of the Year, but he certainly was right there with the head coach at Fairmont State, and what a job he has done putting this team together, transfers, younger players, the guys from last year. Just a fun team to watch all year, really good guys to be around, and just a great story in themselves.
Yeah, and they really just seemed to enjoy themselves when they were out there playing. You can really tell it seemed to be a very stress-free environment for them. They were just going out there, having fun with their teammates and getting the job done, and you could tell that was the key in terms of success, that the way they were able to push forward didn't really pan out the way they wanted to once they made the tournament and ended up losing in that, but still, school's first time appearance ever in that tournament. I mean, that's definitely something you can build off of.
Yeah, within a win of being in the championship game. And Charleston, which almost made the Super Regional in the conference. Glenville State had just about the best pitching staff in the entire conference, and only losing by those couple of runs. But great to see a lot of those pieces back next year. Obviously, the big loss, and people will talk about Bryce Jackson replacing him at first base. But you look at what Ethan Keipel did this year.
Power's not going away. It's definitely going to be here once we get to baseball season next year.
Yeah, and very excited to see what they're going to bring next year, especially if they can add maybe a couple arms in the bullpen would be maybe your one area you look at, but that's a solid team to look at. Same thing you could say about softball, who continued their success really, back-to-back 25-win seasons. A team that, again, was within a game or two of making the conference championship game. You only lose two seniors and obviously very important leaders, but this team is made up almost entirely of freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah, they went out there and they got more experience at the MEC tournament. Things didn't really go in their way at that point, but still, like you said, enough to build off of there, and they're going to be postseason eligible, just like most of these teams are going to be in the spring once we get to that point next year for NCAAs and whatnot. And I'm sure if they put together another campaign like they did this year, they might have a great chance at that.
Yeah, and a big story plot line as well. Laura Guilford setting the MEC conference record for stolen bases in a season as a freshman. So you can only, imagine.
Things are going to go up from here, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And Bree Powell, another big power bat to bring back as a senior next year, who will be the lone senior again, and a very young team. Jayla Hill also brought back power. Very excited for them next year. Our next sport that we're going to get into, women's lacrosse, and this is kind of a theme, but just a little bit short of that conference championship, but right there competing. They have a really good rivalry with Notre Dame. Head coach Taylor Sindall, the coach.
Another coach of the year, that's right.
Another one there, and another team. Now, you're losing a lot of seniors from that defense. You're losing your 2 graduate attackers, but there's a lot of young talent there, and Coach Sindall has really turned this program around.
And I'm sure you're going to see some new faces make their way in here as well via transfer and whatnot, so I'm sure they'll be able to restock and reload and try to make a push at that championship next year.
Yeah, she certainly seems very excited about the freshman class that she's bringing in, as well as you mentioned the transfers. And one key note, back-to-back winning seasons for the program, the first time since 2001. So that, 20 years of going, can't have back-to-back, and she's done a great job. Sticking with lacrosse, Steve Gardelman and his men's lacrosse program, first time making the ECC championship game. They're up.
Got a win in the tournament as well.
Yes, and up against Mercy, who is playing for a national championship game tomorrow. And
playing against a team that Frostburg already played in Tampa as well.
Yeah, and a very, very tough schedule to start the season. I remember we were talking in the office of thinking, man, this isn't really going the way they want. They really turned it around about that middle of the season, and that early season competition prepared them for that slog of the conference and really tough teams in there.
Yeah, there were a lot of great teams on that early portion of the schedule here. It was very well laid out, and definitely might see something like that in the future.
Yeah, and they're obviously, again, as with all these teams, losing a bunch of key seniors, but they got a lot of valuable playing time from these male guys this year. Seamus Carney, the second most caused turnovers in a single season in program history. Luke McCullough, who's only a sophomore, was an all-region player. So there's a lot to be excited for the future for men's lacrosse and all these sports, really.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and now we get to sit back, kick back a little bit here during the summer and reevaluate and get ready. It's going to be September 1st before you know it here, before we start really back here on the Bobcat Sports Network with some football.
Yeah, and you look at all the fall sports and winter sports as well, and just a fun time to be here at Frostburg. Hopefully in July, fingers crossed, we're going to get that approval to officially join Division II. Certainly the summer months kind of calm down a bit for us, but never stop working.
We don't stop. It's just we take a little bit of, ease off the gas a little bit, best way to put it.
But certainly a very memorable and fun spring, and Colin, thank you as always for being the voice of the Bobcats here and for coming on to help review some of our sports.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot and looking forward to start year 2 in August.
Keep on the lookout this summer. We'll have some video ideas and content coming out. We never slow down here, as mentioned here on the Frostburg Sports Network. But we will be back in the fall in our full swing, and we are certainly excited to hopefully be a full member of Division II at that point.